Good evening and welcome to the Greenfield Public Schools School Committee meeting for Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. It's 6:03. Would the secretary please call the roll call?
Secretary Deneve, I'm here. Vice Chair Martini? Here. Chair Johnson-Masad?
Here.
Mayor DeSorger?
Here.
Member Goodwin?
Here.
Member Sexton?
Here.
Member Childs?
Here.
We're all here and there is a quorum.
Thank you. This meeting is being recorded by GCTV. If any other persons present are also recording, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Doesn't look like anyone else is. And do we have any public comment tonight? We do. Come forward. You have 3 minutes.
Hold on 1 second. I just need a timer.
Oh, if you would turn on your microphone.
How's that?
I think that's good.
All right. Thank you to the Greenfield School Committee for having me. I come here as a former employee of the district and not here to put the district or any of its employees on blast, but I'm here to ask what kind of district this committee wants to lead and to be. Here to tell, briefly, the story of the Chicopee School Committee in the public schools for the time in which I was a school committee member down there. We're a veteran school committee. We're a veteran city government. I'm the son of Chicopee's now retired 32-year state rep. I'm a city councilor. 2 of our school committee members are daughter and father. 1 school committee member has a son serving on the city council, a city council president, is the son of the former city treasurer. The city treasurer currently is the daughter of the former city treasurer. We like doing things a certain way in Chicopee, Massachusetts. And that's hurt us at times. In my time, just before I got on the school committee, actually, the school committee was looking to hire a new superintendent. They had the perfect candidate, hired right on the spot. And I won't go into specifics, but 4 months on the school committee, all was rosy, and all of a sudden, it wasn't. If anybody wants to look into that, there's plenty of news coverage. Afterwards, we went out for a search for a new superintendent. It was costly, but we did it. The district is running better than ever. Staff morale is up. Everybody's happy. The district has a district improvement plan in the works. The budgets are goals-oriented now. There's lots of improvement. That's my point in saying all that. Things can appear rosy from the outside, but they can be chaotic or stagnant within. I'm here to ask what sort of environment this committee is trying to cultivate for its staff and its students, and I'll offer some insight from one public official to another as to how you might be able to improve on said environment. First and foremost, I'm not sure if you get these reports sent in an email, but a report on personnel action that covers retirements, resignations, and new hires within the district might be beneficial. Now, why is that important? It shows who's coming in and out of the district at regular intervals and in what departments, and it has led one member to start asking for exit interview data, if there is any in Chicopee, and if there's not any of that in Greenfield, I suggest members start asking for that as well. Retention in Greenfield has only hit 80% 2 times in the last 5 years, being as low as 70% in 2023. And in the last 10 years, if I may ask the chair, can I finish my statement?
Sorry, now 3 minutes.
Excellent.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Any other public comment?
Good evening, all. Doug Selwyn, Greenfield. 2 different things I'd like to say briefly. First, I'd like to invite all members of the school committee and administration to a funding forum, an education funding forum that we're holding on June 18th. So that's next Tuesday at 6 p.m. on Zoom. And given that 2/3 of the schools across the state are losing students and struggling financially, and that the distribution of funding from the state is not getting to the schools, that puts all of us, all of you, in impossible positions. And despite extraordinary work done by teachers and instructional assistants and administrators to do what they can with the resources they've got available, there's no real magic trick to making funds appear unless we push for them. And so I'm hoping that you all will join us and members of the public will join us in having a conversation about how we can do that and how we can build a statewide coalition to push for more funds. So Tuesday, June 18th, 6 p.m. The second thing is I have a question about the redistricting effort of the district. I know it's been pushed back a year, but I'm wondering, where are we? What decisions have been made? What decisions haven't yet been made? And in what ways can the public be involved in those conversations? I know there are a lot of people who have a lot of interest in it, and I'm wondering how we will be able to have that community conversation we need to make this work for everybody. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the report of student representatives to the committee. Shane.
All right, this is very brief. It is finals week, and so I'm going to keep it very concise to just a few clubs today. So starting with Student Council, they held their summer banquet on Sunday, May 26th. We celebrated our 7 graduating seniors and all of the accomplishments from the school year. We had a few volunteer opportunities coming up this summer. We'll be making luminaries for the Relay for Life tomorrow, face paint at the Summer Eats kickoff, and help at the Point 5K and triathlon over the summer. The e-board will be holding our training over the summer to prepare for the fall and look forward to recruiting some new members and holding class officer elections for open positions at the start of the year. The softball team won their 3rd straight Western Mass Class C title and received #1 seed for the MIAA tournament. And the baseball team received a 15 seed and beat Boston International in the round of 32. The MIAA tournament will continue through June 15th. French Club had an exciting end of the year, hosting exchange students from Nantes, France, and putting it on another successful coffee house show. They're also holding their end of the year celebration, or they did hold it last Thursday, and look forward to another year that rocks. Drama Club had a wonderfully successful first year back and are excited to announce next year's show, The Somewhat True Tales of Robin Hood by Mary Lynn Dobson. Auditions are going to be held in the fall, and they would like to thank members of the school committee, the Greenfield Public Schools, and the greater community for their support for the program's renaissance. Sorry if I look in weird places. I've got like the sun right in my eyes. So, the library club's end-of-year celebration was a picnic with lawn games to celebrate a fun and productive year. They have elected club officers for next year and have already started planning a calendar of events. Spectrum is excited for their last meeting to celebrate our seniors and a collaboration with the Greenfield Public Library to make a display of books for Pride Month in the teen room. They're also making final plans to march in the Franklin County Pride Parade on June 15th. All high school students and their families are welcome and invited to march with them. Lineup is at 11:15 at GMS. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer for you.
No question, but just want to thank you and your colleague for your dedicated service this year and coming to these meetings. We really appreciate you and your representation of the students.
Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you all next year.
Thanks, Shane. Do you want me to call Andy, or are you going to?
No, I'm going to do it in this way, but I have, yep. Okay. Andy, can you make your report, please?
Yes, good evening, everyone. You have the reports for the June. Nothing new to report. We're continuing to do our closeout of purchase orders, and we still have some year-end reclasses to do. We're going to be addressing the pre-K tuition projected deficit by both reviewing the encumbrances and potentially reclassing expenses. Other than that, the year-end closing process is going according to plan. I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Andy? Elizabeth?
Hi, Andy. I just have a real quick question. And maybe this, maybe I'm not understanding this, but we have, I see on the agenda that we're going to vote on divesting ourselves of the Green River School. And we have money in, that's been originally appropriated to repair Green River School, but it says that we haven't spent any of it. Does that mean that that money then goes back to us, or how does that work if we don't utilize that? Is this the report? Yes.
And I'm just looking for the Green River. Yeah, the amount that's there, I mean, it's nominal. And so what ends up happening is we end up having, I'm looking at, you're talking in the local budget, right? Or,
No, Andy, there's a capital, the capital report.
oh, the capital report, I apologize.
Page
I was
2.
looking at the local. So, yes, that money would revert back to the city, yes.
Okay, I was just curious, because we have that on the agenda. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Other questions for Andy? Okay, thanks so much, Andy.
I think he's going to hang on.
You gonna hang around a little bit?
I am going to stay on for the POS system.
Okay, great. All right, now to the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning and Superintendent reports.
So I don't know if you want to entertain moving the POS up because we're going to be long.
Oh, okay. Let's see, any objection to moving the POS to the next item rather than later? I don't see any, so let's go ahead with that.
Okay, so thank you. In your packet, you have the information from a quote solicitation that Greta had put together. We're looking to get a new point of sale system for the food service program. There have been upgrades to some of the systems out there on the back end that she's looking to get us to be able to use and have that helps out as far as the reporting side of things. The current system, I believe some of the features are sunsetting as far as their support. So she put together, I'll say, a very detailed quote of scope of service for what it is that she's looking for, and we'd like to move ahead with this program that's in your packet, that the vendor that was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. She did look at, did reference checks, looked at a demo of the system, and is very happy with what it is that this program has to offer. If you look at the revolving account, there's no concern. It's coming out of the food service revolving account, and they've got the funds available to pay for that.
Okay, and so the motion would be to move forward with the proposal as presented in our electronic packets?
Correct.
May I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by Member Martini. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Member Goodwin. Discussion, questions? Not seeing any. Let's move to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? I'll abstain. The motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Andy. Is that it for you tonight?
That is, yes.
All right. See you next month. Bye.
Okay, so I did mention to Glenn that Karen and my report are combined this evening, and it's a little lengthy, so bear with us. But as you can see, we're looking to highlight the work that has been done in the past 3 years. And it's, I think in fairness to tell you, it's 89 slides. So, well, all right, so we'll skim some, but so first we'll talk about things that came out of somewhat my office and then the district as a whole, work that was done. So first, some things you might remember, we did strategic planning, and these are a lot of the steps that had to take place. So that was a big chunk. As you folks remember, I think we started the whole redistricting conversation with a few different parts. You know, my first year was started with a few different pieces. We moved forward with strategic planning because that was a piece that we talked about needing to be in place to help set superintendent goals. And then, so we engaged with that, and we successfully got to a voted strategic plan. And now there's a blank slide for some reason. Oh, weird. Okay. Then every year we do the budget, and I'm identifying some of the pieces that go into moving through the budget process, attending subcommittee meetings, Ways and Means meetings, city council, and then the day-to-day monitoring and ongoing oversight of the budget process. Also, recommended ways to make adjustments when there were reductions to the budget, and honestly, something that I am proud of, watching the districts around us deal with some substantial budget cuts right now. There were some difficult conversations last year, but at this point we are reinstating positions. You know, the schools are able to add some critical positions, and other districts are cutting many positions. And then from a capital request, every year submitted capital requests to the city. From that, we got $100,000 of desktop computers. We have been given money to repair the elevator at Federal Street. And we also had worked with the city finance department to reallocate the small balances that were left from previous year's capital projects to fund the phone upgrade. So that wasn't much local funding that was needed. We used available capital. So, okay. I am super proud to say that the school committee policy manual has been completely reviewed. Assuming a positive vote this evening, that will be done. That was quite the bear, and I'm very pleased that that will be completed before I left. Redistricting. So there were a lot of pieces that Karen and I did together, some things that were public, in dealing with public and having conversations at these meetings, and other things were sort of the nuts and bolts. So all of this, I think you folks probably know. We did the best use of educational facilities studies. We did the public forums. We had subcommittees where we talked about all the questions and options. There are documents on the website outlining all of the pieces of the redistricting. Karen and I met with union leadership multiple times to ensure that we were answering their questions. We met with grade 5 and grade 8 teachers along with the union president and vice president to ask them about factors they needed us to consider. We met with Kosmeskis Bus Company to talk about the impacts of any of the options we were discussing. As an administrative team, we reviewed all of the enrollment data. We created class size projections, reviewed all the transportation options and the impact on the buildings. We reviewed all the spaces in all the buildings to see if we could actually do the things that we were talking about. I will give Karen and Mike Browning all the credit for the scheduling discussion. Karen doesn't even want to talk about that anymore. And then we also sat as an administrative team and reworked all of the factors anytime there was an alternative presented by members of the public. I don't want to click too many times. I got ahead of myself. You did?
I remember these things.
Probably will forever. Presented the redistricting information in multiple school committee meetings. We talked about pros and cons. We answered a lot of questions that people had, and then answered emails about questions for all of the options from members of the community. Okay, so I'm done with redistricting. The other piece I will say about that is the process got to the point where school committee did vote. The process, the decisions were made about how it would be implemented, and now Karen and her team going forward will do the implementation of all of those pieces. But I think that it's currently in a very good position, and that all of the policy and committee level decisions to this point have been made. Okay, Open Architects is a company that's connected to DESE, a partner of DESE, that allows us to house and analyze data in a variety of different ways that are incredibly helpful for us to identify ways in which we can assist students who are struggling the most. So we use that. Most recently, Karen and I and Stephen, the incoming assistant super, sat with our SSOS folks to create the district prioritization plan. That's something we do with SSOS annually to focus our turnaround work. We have exited DESE support for rethinking discipline. In 2021 and 22, we had been identified in needing assistance because we had outlier data, meaning our incidence of externally removing some students were more diverse than the state average. And so our middle school and high school administrators and our director of behavioral services attended professional development in ways to reduce exclusionary discipline. And in 2024, Greenfield is no longer identified as participating in the Rethinking Discipline cohort. We have updated the Greenfield Public Schools website. I give Lauren all the credit in the world for the man hours that went into updating the site after all of the back end work that was done with the collaborative. E-Team, that's our administrative team. We meet twice a month. We focus our E-Team on significant professional development. Those are some of the topics. We do budget process procedure guidance. We review compliance for bullying prevention and investigations, the query process fingerprint laws. We have standardized the use of school spraying, which sounds like a silly thing, but when you have a smooth, coherent process for how interview applicants submit applications, they are reviewed, and how interviews are able to be scheduled all through one program, that reduces the number of people hours that are required, and it reduces significantly the paper that is needed. We also have worked with the Mass State Police, the Greenfield Police Department, the Greenfield Fire Department, and now Franklin County Sheriff's Department to reestablish the drill schedule for all of our safety drills.
You want us to hold questions till the end?
Whenever people have a question.
Can you say again, the E-Team is who?
The administrative team, 1 week it's all of the principals, superintendent, assistant superintendent, and then the alternate week we include the non-academic department heads. So our director of nursing, facilities manager, food service director, IT, transportation.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, yes, catch me if I use, there's acronyms in here, as I'm sure you can imagine. So just some additional information. I have provided weekly updates, parent updates to staff and families. I participated in weekly meetings to support the families in emergency shelters here in Greenfield, including state senator, the representatives, the mayor's office, and community service agencies. We formalized training room support for our athletic teams so that they have support. We are reducing injury, reducing time off the field for our athletes, and providing faster support if there are suspected injuries. So that's a huge benefit for health and safety for our students. I've collaborated well with Marla Warner, the director of DPW, our transportation company, and other stakeholders to make school day decisions about weather. It takes more time than you would imagine to call a snow day. We have successfully done collective bargaining on 7 unions. Units A and C, some of you may remember that there was some discussion around finishing those up. And then transportation, food service, admin assistance, custodial, and then a newly formed union, our instructional technology department has a brand new contract. So some other things that, and all of these, this is not everything we've done day to day. These are things that we believe over the course of time have or will have a positive impact on the function of the district. So we've established and implement district-wide attendance protocols, including the times of the daily calls, like, hey, your student's not here, do you know that? Timelines for families about phone calls and letters. We have added home visits to the attendance protocol. We standardize district-wide our student support team. So that is a way for general ed teachers, related service providers, administrators to problem solve and put supports in place for students well before there is consideration of special education. There is a formal manual, and all of the administrators were trained on how to implement the new protocols. I don't want to say the COVID word anymore, but at the beginning of Karen and my superintendent administration, we still were dealing with COVID and protocols and the process of maintaining, ensuring they were followed, and then divesting ourselves of those protocols. We've standardized the field trip request documents and process. In collaboration with the Director of Behavioral Services, Director of Pupil Services, Karen and I, we determined the social and emotional curriculum needs, K-7, and then we facilitated curriculum writing committee with teachers to write SEL lessons for K-7 following the CASEL competencies. We also established the process for archiving personnel and payroll records, which is a huge savings of space and filing cabinets. Hate to waste a good filing cabinet.
Mayor?
I was just curious on the absenteeism. That's wonderful about the establishing of the program. Did the numbers improved?
You'll
Could
see.
You say, okay.
Oh yeah, you'll see them.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I think that's something that we are exceptionally proud of, yes. Statewide system of support, we talked about that a little bit. We are very fortunate this year to have worked with a wonderful team, and last year. This year and last year to have worked with a wonderful team of people, 3 folks from DESE who helped to support our improvement work. And both years, Karen and I have worked with them and done deep data analysis and created a required district prioritization plan that is absolutely in line with the Student Opportunity Act plan you'll see later, with our strategic plan, and with every other plan that the Department of Ed has required of us. So Karen and I have worked to keep the initiatives and goals of that prioritization plan moving forward, analyze data relative to the goals, and they have also participated in all of our district learning walks with me, Karen, and the building principals. So they've really been important folks with us. Okay. Any questions before I get to the data? Okay. All right, we'll just hit some highlights because there's a lot. But you have this in your school committee Google folder, and I forgot which ones I was supposed to do. All right, you go ahead.
We're going to start with the high school. The high school this year is
currently one of the schools that was newly added to our turnaround status. But as you can see, if you just look at the June 2023 column and the June 2024 column for chronic absenteeism, you can see that Greenfield High School this year has improved in all categories, as well as the subcategories that are identified by DESE in our SSOS plan. So our subcategories are English language learners, students with disabilities, and our Hispanic and Latino population. So moving forward, our district prioritization plan also revolves around these three subgroups and moving towards more data analysis and really looking at data more continually to keep track of the improvement we need to see in these three subgroups. But as you can see, the high school did make vast improvements in chronic absenteeism. So getting them to school is very positive, and we look forward to next year in improving that even more. We only map test through 8th grade, so you'll see some ELA grade 8 literacy information here. The red boxes mean nothing. They were put on there by SSOS and we couldn't delete them, so don't worry about why those are highlighted. For our next year's prioritization plan, though, after meeting with the SSOS team, we have made literacy our continued focus for next year, and you'll see when we get into the math data that literacy is still where we need some improvements. But some highlights here, though. You can see that the average percentage of students meeting their growth targets from fall to winter or fall to spring have improved from 2023 to 2024. So that is definitely positive. And then you will see the math data. And
Can you remind me what the SE stands for?
Special education.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. And you will see the highlights here from 2023 to 2024. The majority of students doubled their growth percentage targets, and then they've met them all even greater than that. So I really think, we were talking about this earlier, Christine and I, these students have had 3 solid years of high quality instructional math materials in front of them. And I think having that access to standards-based instruction, high-quality instruction that's evidence-based has really shown that our math goals are being met, and highlighting that L line there where 100% of the students this year met their growth target in 8th grade is just phenomenal. So really proud of that too.
Okay, so I will speak to middle school. So the middle school, we have made improvements in our chronic absentee rate. You'll see for our English learner population, we did, sorry, I misspoke, I apologize. For all of our students, we hit our target, made significant improvements since last June. Our students with disabilities also had some nice improvement. We hit our target. Those targets, by the way, are set by the Department of Education and our accountability. Those aren't our goals, those are DESE goals. We still have some work to do in getting our English learner students and our students who are Hispanic, Latino, some improvement in terms of their chronic absenteeism, but we are moving. So we're happy where we've seen growth and know where we need to focus. The ELA assessment data for the middle school, again, we look at that last column, percent of students meeting their growth targets from fall to spring. Just so you know, that first line where it says all is last year's score. The next line that says all is this year's score. You can see the year difference. So increase in the percentage of students who've hit their growth targets for all of our students. Our special education students are still struggling, and we are working on an evaluation of our special education services. And then our English learner population has 10% increase in the students who are meeting their growth goal. And then our math data, again, seeing some pretty significant improvements. Percentage of students meeting growth targets, 36 to 67 for all students at the middle school. Our special education population went from 20% to 57% of students meeting their growth target. And our English learner students, 20% to 77% in a year. So those are things that we're really pleased to see. So Mrs.
Do
Fenimore.
you think that is mostly the textbooks, the curriculum, or?
We do believe that the continued exposure to high-quality instructional material is a factor, but we've also been doing the professional development that Karen has been highlighting over the course of the past few years. We're focusing on a consistent set of instructional practices and and we now have a full-time ELL teacher at the middle school, which helps with our English learner population, yes. So I think we are starting to see a very positive collision of factors that are impacting our students. So Mrs. Fenimore put this slide and then the next one together for Karen and I, but we wanted to highlight them. She looked at cohorts, last year's 5th grade to this year's 6th grade, and there was a 14% increase in students on grade level or advanced on MAP. And for the 6th graders moving into 7th grade, this is ELA, a 30% increase in the percentage of students on grade level and into advanced. So a wonderful increase in the numbers of students who have moved into that higher level of performance. And math, again, 5th grade moving into 6th, 37% increase, and 6th grade into 7, a 40% increase. So again, wonderful data to be highlighting.
Newton rocked it out of the park in improving their chronic absenteeism. If you just look at that first row for all students, last year we had 37.1% of our students at Newton who are chronically absent. The state gave us a target this year to decrease that to 34.9%, and their current chronic absentee rate is 18.7%. So that's just phenomenal. So we're really excited to see that. Their assessment data for ELA, you can see that all of their RIT scores in every category from special ed to English language learners all improved from fall to spring. So we were really excited to see that improvement. And then with math, if you just look at the percentage of students meeting their growth target from fall to spring each year, they have almost all doubled, if not more than that, increased overall. And then to see that rate of our English language learners all the way up to 87.5% is really impressive. So we're excited for that. And again, you know, that our math seems to be our strength in the data, and which is why we're really going to continue with that literacy focus next year.
Okay, Federal Street School, again, all of our students looking at the decrease in the chronic absentee rate. The DESI's target for us was 37. We're at 23.4. So we've hit all of the targets given by DESI and decrease the percentage of students described as chronically absent for Federal Street. The English language arts, again, RIT scores improved from fall to spring in every group presented there. And again, you can see the significant improvement for the percent of students meeting their growth target from last year to this year, including our special education students who went from 10% meeting their growth target to 40%. We want more, of course, but a significant increase. Our L students, 22 to 63. So some nice jumps there. And then again, math, as Karen just said, math is definitely our area of strength right now with, I think the lowest improvement is a doubling in the percentage of students meeting their growth target.
Finally, the Discovery School at Four Corners, they actually improved their chronic absentee rate as well. And often when your chronic absentee rate is minimal to start, it is harder to improve. So I think they're really should be commended for that. They had a 13.1% target by the state and actually have an 11.5% chronic absentee rate right now. So there was definite improvement. Their ELA, again, students meeting that growth target from fall to spring is just a highlight for most of our schools, including the Discovery School. If you look at all from 39% to 60.6, you have our special ed students almost doubling to 40.7, and then you do see an increase in the L's as well. And then with math, you see that jump be exponentially higher. So we're going from 57 to 76.9, and then that L number really just, makes your heart warm, where we've gone from 42.9% to 85.7% of our L's meeting their growth targets. So job well done there.
Part of what we did, so all of this work, we connect to the work with SSOS, the priority plan, and then they participate in all the professional development that Karen will speak to more. And one of the things that we were able to do is Dr. Sharmi Curry, who's the DESE Associate Commissioner for SSOS, which is statewide system of support. She came to visit the district, and Karen and I worked with her to tour all of our buildings, and then sat down with her to talk about the impressions that she had. And one of the things that she noted that we were extremely pleased about is that she said every classroom, they were utilizing the curriculum materials. Every classroom. There was consistency across the district and that's the goal, So we were very pleased, and she was great to have on site with us. Why does this not love me? Okay, now Karen's going to talk about the work she's done.
So I know I've been involved in a lot of the work we've already talked about, but there are some things that my office handles that I wanted to highlight tonight as well. The first is our mentor and mentee program. Our Unit A folks have had a very solid mentor and mentee program, but getting that actually funded and doing the oversight involves writing the Title II grant that funds that. The Unit C members negotiated a mentor-mentee program into their contract this year, so I have been training the new mentors and then overseeing those relationships and meetings and trainings and professional developments as well. We also do a biannual celebration because I like to highlight these folks do it for a very minimal stipend, and they give a lot of work, time, and effort and love to our incoming employees, and it really is just something that's so valuable in this district. They have someone that they can rely on, and these mentors are just phenomenal. And then at the end of the year, we ask for their feedback, and then we try to revamp and reorganize and really create a better program moving forward. The Title I grant is a federal grant that my office oversees. We oversee all of the Title I interventionists in every building, which requires a lot of collection of data on their part, students that they service, the cycle of intervention, data collection to show improvement, whether the student stays in intervention. We have ELA and math interventionists, so we have monthly meetings to review that documentation, answer any questions, supervise that process, and then we plan and support all of the family engagement nights, and we try to help out at every school, from bingo to books to math nights to meet and greet to winter carnival to hot diggity dog that was happening tonight at the middle school before we headed over here. And then we also try to make sure that we fill skill gaps and create vacation challenges so students stay engaged in their learning. And we also do some work with the community, and a lot of it is done on the Winter Carnival, where we host book giveaways for folks, and Adam's Donuts is one of our highlights. It's usually freezing, though, but we have a good time. We also run summer school programming, and then we have to coordinate and comply with all of the audits by the Federal Grants Management Team and keep record of all of that. We also publish, document, and distribute all the necessary letters by DESE and the federal government that go along with this grant, and really keep track of all of that in district. The Title IV grant is part of that federal allocation. I highlighted just a photo from the Federal Street Library. I'm really proud of the work that we've done over the last 2 years in getting those libraries up to a quality that our students deserve, with a diversified collection that represents our population and that is in this century, not from centuries ago. So really thankful for all of that work. We also worked with the IT department. We do a technology audit because our Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions needed some technology support. And then, worked with Christine's office on the social and emotional supplies needed for the Second Step program that's delivered K through 7. Sorry, flipped the wrong way. I also write all of the grants that do not fall under SPED. So if they are such as our turnaround grant, our civics grant, to name a few, our investigating history grant, which the middle school has taken on. We've done a lot of the HQIM grants that have supported the work that we've done in the adoption of our CKLA Amplify, along with Eureka and illustrative math. And then with the superintendent, we've managed and amended ESER 2 and ESER 3 in our time that we were here. And I think some of the things that folks don't know maybe about grant writing, if you're not one, is that there are specific requirements for all of the funding, of course, and you have to constantly meet and adhere to those requirements and keep track of everyone who is working under those grants. There's multiple cost centers usually in each that you have to navigate and at least keep documenting the implementation of all of the grant funds. I have a couple highlights. Our civics grant that we have had for the last few years, we participated in the Civics Project Showcase at UMass, and that is a group of our students that just attended last Friday. And the next two slides also has some photos, the next one at least, has a photo of our other two groups. And many of them took on the issue of homelessness in Greenfield. And I just wanted to highlight, because the DESE Deputy Commissioner, Regina Robinson, that was there leading this showcase, recognized only one school, and that school was Greenfield High School, for the work that they did and the showcase work that they did. So shout out to Ms. Zimmerman, Ms. Deegan, and all of the other history folks, and just really giving them the opportunity to showcase their work. They were very proud of that achievement, and I'm very proud to share that with you tonight. Some of the other I like to highlight, I'm always excited when we can get students out of Greenfield and exploring the world, and the Civics Grant also funded Luke Martin's trip to Ellis Island and the 9/11 Memorial in New York City a couple weeks ago, and you can see he took a hefty bunch of juniors and seniors with him to New York City. And when I was talking with a few of them, it always makes me remember how important it is to get them to explore the world. One of them was just describing the awe in which they were when they saw the Statue of Liberty when they were on the boat over to Ellis Island. So if nothing else, I think that's positive that we get our kids in these experiences. And then Title I also supported the STEM night at Greenfield Middle School this past year, along with the GEF. My office also handles all of the professional development, and I know you've heard many of the things that I've reported in my reports every year, but every week, month anyways, feels like every week. But we plan the district's PD for the whole school year, which includes new teacher orientation, convocation, any of the adoptions of any of our high-quality instructional curriculum materials. I also work with all of the other departments to see what their PD needs are and try to plan plan with our transportation, nursing, IT, food services, custodial, because every time we have a professional development day, we want all of our departments to get the development that they deserve. We manage all of the resources for that, and then try to also oversee all of the district mandatory trainings that are required for every employee when they onboard. The biggest project has been the Teaching Lab professional development this year, which has really focused on that K through 7 CKLA and Amplify adoption. However, we utilized that grant to also include AEL in the high schools, so that our instructional strategy work was K through 12, pre-K through 12. We certainly didn't want there to be bookends where they weren't getting this exploration and this PD and this in-depth instructional strategy work. So you can see here, that included scheduling learning walkthroughs, and that included not only teaching lab people flying in, but DESE, SSOS people, along with building principals in every building 6 times during the year. So it was quite the coordination to get every bit of that grant and checked off and made sure that we adhered to the grant needs, but also to make it meaningful for our instructional faculty. So wanted to highlight that. My office also handles homeschool coordination. We process, review, and oversee 100 to 150 homeschool applications every year, which includes, per school committee policy, monitoring year-end summary progress reports and making sure that people adhere to the curriculum that they intended to teach their children. We answer and address any questions that come out, and we send out yearly approval letters along with follow-up letters if there are any missing components. We also handle all of the interns and student-teacher placements in the district. I had the privilege of, these were 2 of our interns that were teaching in our history department at Greenfield High School. Their UMass 180-day program ceremony was the other night, and I had the pleasure of going to Springfield and honoring both Emily and Kate. They were wonderful, and we wish them the best in their next adventures. But we don't just do interns in our Unit A department. We do interns in technology, we do nursing interns, we have interns in our food service department. We also have collaborated with GCC and HCC to do IA interns. So monitoring all of their placements, making sure that they've done all the mandatory trainings, making sure that they're on board with the GPS policies is also part of that process. Whew. Curriculum adoption, implementation, mapping, and oversight. So along with adopting all of these materials, we have to make sure that the pilots happen, the adoption and implementation process goes well, that teachers have the support that they need, that we develop scope and sequence for these materials and have checkpoints along the way, that if there are questions or coordinations, that there's time during faculty meetings or collaboration times where people can have access to get their questions answered. The ordering and divvying up of all of the materials district-wide is a job in and of itself every year. We also have decided to adopt a new science curriculum next year, Open SciEd, so we're in the midst of doing that as well in grades 6 through 12. We have grades 5 through 7 adopting investigating history, so we're trying to align that PD, which is happening at the end of the month for them. And then we've worked on actually having a 5-year curriculum map cycle. So we started this year with writing ELA and music curriculum. We will move into math and hopefully health next year under Stephen's oversight. And we also adopted Naviance at grades 7 through 12, which is our college and career readiness program to try to give our students access to more opportunities to learn about things they may want to be or become. My office also handles courses and conferences, so if any teacher or employee in the district wants to enroll in a course or take a conference, all of the paperwork is processed through my office. We monitor, process, oversee the approval, track expenditures, and work closely with the business office to maintain those records. This year we had monthly elementary pre-K principal meetings and then separate secondary meetings where I got to meet in 2 groups with folks talk about issues that were coming up at their grade levels, oversee curriculum implementation, create and collaborate building schedules so that they worked for principals, and really just talking about our power teacher use. Our pre-K through 5 piloted this year, so we had a lot of questions and a lot of trainings on from principals what that would look like in the future. So that was a chunk of our time together. Instructional leadership teams are part of the SSOS turnaround plan so that we have boots on the ground of strong instructional leaders from our Unit A staff in each building. They have been pivotal in the work that we have done with instructional strategies. Principals oversee those at each building, and then the district, Christina and I, oversee with the principals to make sure that everyone's in line not only with the strategic plan, but the goals of our district prioritization plan with SSOS so that we are meeting our goals and really keeping our focus on what we intend to do each and every day. I also handle educator evaluation training and keeping track of professional development. Our admin need to be trained every year, and then our admin become train the trainers, and then they train our staff members, which is by timelines, I believe, before September 15th every year. We also work with building principals to make sure that they meet all of the required timelines due to the contractual language that we have in agreement with the Unit A folks. And then I, this year, took over updating, managing, and cleaning up Vector Solutions, which is the online component where we submit all of our EdEval documents. And I saved the fun one for last. The Grinspoon Award, which is the Harold Grinspoon Teacher of the Year Award. I coordinate with their office every year so that we have a district process where applications are submitted from each building. We vet those applications at E-Team and then vote as an administrative team and then collaborate with the Grinspoon Foundation on the coordination for the ceremony. We go to the ceremony, which is at the log cabin every year, support the winners, and this year's winner was Jess Caribou, and that was from our evening supporting her, so I just thought I'd share that photo.
Okay, now specific to our technology department. Starting with that original capital request, I think my first year when we got $100,000 for desktops, at this point, with the exception of the high school teachers' desktops, which we are in the process of getting a quote to replace now, all the desktops, staff desktops in the district are less than 3 years old. When I got here, some of them were almost 15 years old. So we are purchasing replacement projectors for the interactive whiteboards, new Chromebook carts so that we make sure every middle school and high school classroom has their own cart and the Chromebooks in them so that the teachers don't have to share. Elementary already has carts and the Chromebooks that they need for their instructional purposes. Our IT department created an inventory system for our technology assets, and they created and distributed a tech survey for all of our staff. They have, as I said, replaced or replacing all staff desktop computers. We are purchasing 750 new Chromebooks, 14 new servers district-wide, not glamorous, but that's what makes it go. Other elements of the infrastructure to ensure network sustainability have been purchased and maintained. All the district wireless has been updated. We updated the phone system, as I said previous, to be compliant with the BOM Act and Carey's Law. Almost all of that work was done in our IT department. We provided emergency phones in each building for communication directly with dispatch. We completed an audit of our phone lines and reduced district costs by at least $6,000 annually. Our IT director reworked the copier lease, reducing our fleet and replacing the remaining district copiers for efficiency, and saved, and apparently I left myself a pregnant pause there. We believe it's about $20,000 a year. We also submit for E-rate reimbursement annually. We've established the help desk administrator position so that we respond more efficiently to help desk tickets. As Karen mentioned, we have an intern to the Greenfield Community College. We have established relationships with staffing agency to deal with staffing shortages, so we keep our IT response as robust as possible. We have done a ton of work declaring surplus and recycling old and broken technology. And apparently I'm very proud of those things that we've done in technology. Sorry, that's the cost you pay when you rework a PowerPoint, right? Okay, then under the Director of Pupil Services and Special Education, our Director of Pupil Services writes and administers all of these grants. The IDEA, or Special Education, ARP, were American Rescue Plan. Those have sunsetted at this point. Special Education, the Federal Special Education Improvement Program was connected to the ESSER funding structures. McKinney-Vento is to support our students experiencing homelessness, as is the 301, 302. The first 2 years, the Comprehensive School Health Service grant was written out of our Pupil Service Department. Now it's moved to our nurse leader. And Dave also writes and administers Title III, which is to support our English Learner Program. And Karen already talked about the requirements for grant administration, so I won't review, but he has the same types of requirements that all of our grants do. Dave has also substantially increased the district information provided in translated versions. We're providing information to families in at least 6 languages, one of which is American Sign Language. We provide go bags to students under McKinney-Vento with instructional and personal hygiene supplies. He works with the transportation department to ensure our students who are experiencing homelessness receive the required transportation, updated procedures regarding record keeping for our English Learner Program, updated parent notification for our English Learner Program, revitalized the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. I've seen some of the folks coming in for meetings, and the participation has increased from none to, I think they had 6 at the last meeting. So that's actually a pretty good increase proportionately, I guess. Developed an implementation plan so that next year there is also a parent advisory council for our English learners, and facilitated an update of the English Learner Procedural Manual. He's also provided professional development and materials in specialized reading to all district special education teachers, provided professional development in these other topics. Many of those topics that are bulleted, Dave or our current or prior assistant directors presented themselves. We have provided PD for staff in assistive and augmentative communication and additional reading approaches. We are conducting an analysis of the strengths and needs related to our inclusive programming, where students with special needs receive support in settings with typical peers, as they should. That's the preferred location, as long as students are able to make progress. And then updated and implemented a special education procedure manual. Under the Director of Pupil Services, we have our Director of Behavioral Services, who kind of works with me and with Dave and the principals and with Karen. Some of the things he's done in the past 2 years: provided ongoing clinical support, provided professional development, outreach to families and community counseling agencies, conducted home visits, provided collaboration and problem solving about creation of behavior plans, on-site support in crisis situation, and worked with our counselors K-7 to implement the second step in SEL lessons that were in line with the CASEL competencies. Keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. you're doing transportation.
This is with regards to the Greenfield Public Schools transportation unit. So we provide transportation for students out of district, and you can see the year delineation there. This year we've provided 37 students out of district transportation, 136 students in-house. They also spend time providing transportation. Our high school life skills class 3 to 4 times a week, getting them out into the community where they learn life skills. Provided transportation for our Beacon program, which is 10 to 14 students, and that transportation was to GCC this year because they were on site at that campus. Provided transportation for students receiving tutoring, sports trips. They've also assisted in field trips. They've provided a second chance bus to help us with improving chronic absenteeism, where they do another round for us if a parent calls and says, my student missed a bus and I don't have a way to get them there. We send the second chance bus to go and pick them up. And they also support individualized requests for transportation by building administrators as needed. And there's our lovely food service folks. They were at a professional development. They love when I come around with my camera, if you can't tell. They are amazing, this team. They have done a wealth of things with our students to get them exposed to different foods and different avenues. They had the Kale Blazer by Mass Farm School. They became a fully CEP district, bringing Four Corners into the group. They do Healthy Kids, Healthy Program Summit. They have a Mass Farm Fresh School grant where they get to taste test things, and Just Roots works with them. And they restarted the staff lunch program, which so many of our staff compliment them on, that they have access to.
Question.
What is a CEP district?
I'm going to blank because you asked me the question. It's eligibility. We are able to all get free meals, breakfast and lunch. And actually, I believe Greta has worked so that for the summer, at least, a supper meal is part of that. So I will get back to you because I have just lost the actual word CEP, but I will get back to the
meaning was
committee.
more important than the words anyway.
It's eligibility for the state and federal sponsored meals.
The food service department is really great about doing culturally relevant meals. They've brought in training for staff on Puerto Rican and Salvadorian cuisine. They visited the New England Dairy Farm, and then they did a smoothie program. They expanded Summer Eats, where it is including an added supper meal, and they are hosting the annual kickoff, which is coming up next week, so hopefully everyone can join. They also received the Food Security Infrastructure Grant, so they got the food truck going, which was in service tonight at Hot Diggity Dog. And then, as you heard earlier, they are working on a new POS system, which is the point of sale. And Greta does a great job managing her budget and staffing, and they are a self-sustaining food service program.
Okay, nursing. Last but not least. So the Wellness Committee was chaired by our nurse leader, Melissa. That included working with a DESE-provided consultant, having the administrators review multiple times. You folks probably remember you voted to endorse that wellness program. We have been recognized as a Massachusetts School Wellness Champion, and part of that is that Greta, food service director, and Melissa attended the Healthy Kids, Healthy Program Summit and were recognized for that work. Thank you, I can read it there. Melissa and her nursing team established MERTs, Medical Emergency Response Teams, and that is documented, very clearly established about roles and responsibilities. We have recognized menstrual equity, and we have applied to participate in programs that provide free menstrual products and dispensers to our schools. The Greenfield nursing program, as Karen mentioned, has nursing students in our health offices, and we have bleeding control kits purchased through grant funding and are located in each AED cabinet throughout the district. So that is bleeding kits like a tourniquet and such. Thank you. And then they take care of calibrating our audiometers used for hearing tests that are required. We have 2 new audiometers purchased with the Comprehensive School Health Services grant, and Melissa oversees the AED contracts, and we are pleased to say we have at least 13 AEDs across the district. Facilities, I lied. I said nursing was last but not least. This is really the last department. So they have updated the asbestos program in compliance with state requirements. We have updated books on safety data sheets. Everything that is even remotely considered to be a chemical has to have what's called an SDS sheet. So that is a very significant piece to keep on top of. Our facilities department has done replacement at Newton and AEL for doors, Four Corners roof drain, Federal Street main office carpet, Greenfield Middle School student services, the Federal Street rubber floor and stair treads, as well as at the middle school, Newton School fencing. Mike is also working on replacing fencing at Four Corners and at the high school where there was some damaged fencing, and around the little playground at AEL, that's in process now. And then across the district, water fountains with water bottle filling stations were installed in all of the buildings. That was no small feat. So that's just some of what we've done in the past 3 years. But I need to just make sure I'm very clear that this reflects time, effort, dedication, and the love of what they do, of all the staff in Greenfield, every staff person. They work so hard all the time, and we would not do any of what we're doing and have nothing on these slides if it weren't for the collective effort. So please join us in saying thank you for the fabulous work. I would say I'm sorry that it was long, but I'm not.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Member Sexton?
This is an easy one. You said that the kickoff to the Summer Eats program was next week,
20th, Thursday, the 20th.
like during the day or during
No,
the evening?
it's after school.
Okay.
Karen's looking right now.
Thank
It's
you,
going to be
Karen.
at the rec department swim area. There are community agencies there. The rec department works in collaboration, and the food truck will be there.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Let's see, I have a few things. I don't remember seeing in the presentation about the cell phone policy and the pouches. That was a major achievement as well. I don't remember seeing that one, but maybe you
We
did.
might have skipped that one. I'm sure there were a lot of things that we didn't
Well, I
highlight,
just want to
but
give you
that's true.
kudos for that because you listened to the teachers, you brought it to us, you pushed, we had some tough conversations on the school committee about that. And I think the research that's coming in from districts around the country that are trying this are seeing good results. So I just think that should be noted and celebrated as well. And I also wanted to say another piece of your responsibilities that I've really appreciated has been your support of the school committee. It's a lot of work to get these meetings organized for you and your team, and you've provided a lot of support to me as a new school committee chair this year, and
Well,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much for saying that, and I'll share that with Lauren and everybody else in the office that helps get everything together, but thank you. I'm sure there's a number of things that are great that we've done in the past 3 years that didn't quite come to mind as we were trying to capture everything. But, you know, there's been a lot. I think that's why we're so tired. But it's all been really good, and I'm very pleased that we're able to show data that's showing the results of that work. So, thank you.
I'll just add that during this last budget season, it was kind of raised a lot, this concept that we're top heavy on administration. And I would say based on the output that this administration has led, we're more like lean and mean in terms of what you were able to accomplish. So this seems like an appropriate time to appreciate you, Superintendent. Your very last meeting with us tonight before your retirement. We have a small token for you of our appreciation for your work with us.
Oh, gee.
Richardson's candies and
All
a
right.
card from the school
Okay.
committee.
Absolutely, you folks knew your way to my heart with chocolate. Absolutely. Thank you so very much. And I said this morning, I was able to have a gathering with the central office folks and the administrators. And so, you know, when I applied to come to Greenfield, people who I knew who worked in education said, I don't know if you want to go to Greenfield. They said some other things, but that was the general theme. And now I am so proud to say I'm the superintendent in Greenfield. It is a wonderful district, and everybody is working so hard with a collective goal, and everybody is so nice. And I am very pleased to say that I am retiring from Greenfield. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I guess I want to say one more thing, which is like with the COVID, I feel like one of the ways we deal with trauma as a species is just to put things behind us, and we kind of forget what an incredibly difficult situation you walked into, the students transitioning back, and there were a lot of behavioral problems, and you just have such a steady keel and just kind of kept marching forward. So that steady leadership at that particular time was very appreciated.
Thank you. I laugh because I don't know if Karen would use the word steady keel, but we'll let that go. Thank you.
Thank you.
We had the pleasure of having a small gathering with the administrative and central office staff today to honor Christine, but I do think it's noteworthy to say a few words tonight. So I just want to thank you again for your service. Like I said this morning, I can't believe 3 years have gone by. It's been a blink. I'm honored to have been a part of the progress and improvements in the Greenfield school system that have happened under your leadership. And really, I think tonight really showcased all that you have done, and thank you for all of your hard work. You leave us better off than when you arrived, and I'm truly thankful to have worked beside you. So on behalf of the Greenfield Public School Administration, faculty, and staff, we wish you all the best in the next chapter. Congratulations.
Oh, go ahead and cry. Why not?
No, I'm not going to do it. Oh, thank you. It's so nice. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Back to business.
Okay, our work does carry forward from the celebratory to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any member would like to have removed and considered separately?
Well, I think we should remove F because didn't we already consider it? and vote on it?
Okay, yep, good point. We moved that one out already. So our consent agenda is the items A through E. Are there any other items there that people would like to consider separately? With that, I would have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, items A through E.
So moved.
Motion from Member Sexton,
Seconded.
second from Member Childs. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I'll abstain. The motion carries. Great.
Chair, I'm sorry, I abstain.
Oh, and an abstention from Member Martini. Okay. Next, we have vote to approve the field behind Greenfield High School to be named Donna Woodcock Field. I guess we, as a reminder, we kind of opened a public comment period. There was public comment tonight as a hearing as well on this item. I haven't heard any opposition. There's many members of the community deeply appreciative of Donna Woodcock's leadership on the fields there, and so I would hear a motion to approve the field behind Greenfield High School being named Donna Woodcock Field. Motion from the mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Vice Chair Martini. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll say aye too. Any abstentions? Anyone against? Motion carries unanimously. Thanks to everyone who's been in touch with us about this and who proposed the idea. I think that's very special recognition for a very special leader. Next, why don't we have the superintendent kind of give us an intro to this, and then we'll have a motion, discussion, and a vote.
Okay, so as we've been talking about for a while, what the situation would be for the public schools in terms of the use of Green River School. In your packet is a copy of the letter that I sent to the Mass School Building Authority. They're behind on the other side. Okay. About the history, there's a required process to take a school out of service through MSBA, and some of the factors that they primarily concern themselves with are involving students who may be in the school when we consider closing it. And as we know, Green River has been closed for students for a number of years, I believe 7. I did a summary of documentation. I will say there's some inconsistencies in the documentation I was able to locate. However, Green River has been open and closed multiple times since its inception, but the most recent seems to have been closed with the statement on the document provided to DESE saying that Green River was being closed because of issues with the heating system and that it would reopen upon repair. The general understanding that I have is at that stage there were questions about what would we use Green River for. There was no immediate need, so then the discussion of do we repair the heat if there's no need for the use of the school, and so on and so on. And now we know that at this point the heating system has not been repaired, and given the 10-year enrollment projections and the space that we're using even next year, I apologize, for the year after for redistricting, the Greenfield schools do not require it. So I have a history of the heating system, which thank you to Carol Collins on the city side for some explanation of that. And so I sent this. There is language in the paperwork from the Mass School Building Authority that was signed by Mayor Martin at the time that speaks to the requirements for use of the building. It is supposed to be used for educational purposes for 50 years following the receipt of the funds. We clearly have not hit the 50-year mark. MSBA has this letter. They have acknowledged receipt of the letter. They will let the district know the next steps. Primarily, I understand the question is, what about the loan? Really, what I wanted to highlight is that we have had some conversation with a community organization that does provide what I think we can speak to as an educational service. So hopefully they will consider that if that is the way we go with the use of Green River School in the future, they will consider that in making decisions about repayment of the loan or the funding. So at this point, I think it makes sense. We've talked about it at the subcommittee meeting. The mayor and the chair and I have talked about it. It seems prudent at this point to hand the building back to the city. The school department still does pay for some things, the servers, the security in that building. We are in the process of taking things out of it, finally. It has been used as storage, so we're going through it. You will see some surplus being declared, or you just did see some surplus being declared that will help us begin clearing out Green River. But at this point, it's not being used at all, never mind by us in any productive way. So if the school committee would consider handing it back to the city, then decisions can be made about its use going forward.
Thank you. Any questions before we start? Take a motion and a... Okay, hear a motion for the school committee to relinquish possession of Green River School effective September 1, 2024.
So moved.
A motion from Member Goodwin. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Member Martini. Discussion? Member Sexton?
I wanted to share that at the most recent subcommittee meeting for the ad hoc redistricting committee, we did take a vote to endorse this action on the basis that really there's this is the direction that it is headed. I will share though that this isn't a school committee matter that I'm about to speak to necessarily, but just so that the mayor in particular is aware that when this happens, if it happens, should we, pass this motion right tonight, the community is very interested in having a role in deciding what happens with this building, and I have wanted to be able to provide some communication to the community about what, if this action happens, who do they go to next if they don't come to this subcommittee? If it's no longer in our purview, there needs to be some communication out about how people can make their preferences or their desires or their ideas known, and who is the entity on the city side that will be taking this over, so that they can be the ones who are hearing from the community. I just need to make it very clear that decision shouldn't really happen behind closed doors. That is not going to go over really well, and that we should be able to communicate what is next after this motion. But I do just want to reiterate that we did take a vote and we do endorse the action from the subcommittee.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions before we vote? Mayor?
May I answer that?
Sure.
So I just wanted to, for full disclosure, I had another entity come forward for an educational purpose that had to do with music. And certainly to answer your question, this probably is a decision that's going to be made by the mayor's office. I think all of you know me, and I do listen to other people's input. People can write to Mayor if they have some things that they would like to say about that. One of the concerns that we've had as we're going along with this is the grant, and I just wanted to say that openly in a public setting, that will be, in my mindset, one of the things that I will be considering, because there's a little bit of unknown with that. And so if it's for an educational use that involves children, that may very well suffice. It's not sure, we're opening a door, going to the other side, we don't know what's on the other side, but there are two decisions here, whether that building remains vacant or not. And an educational use is something that I just wanted to, that may very well be the deal breaker, I guess I would say, for lack of a better word.
I guess I would just say when you talk about opening the door and you don't know what's on the other side, we can't get a determination from them in advance of whether they're going to accept a particular use as satisfying the needs of the grant. So do appreciate the mayor taking this risk to accept this property and hope that that can be resolved. So. Any other questions? Oh, yes, Member Childs.
Just a quick comment. Yes, there is that risk there, but realistically, this building has not been a school in many years, and it is not going to be a Greenfield public school at any point in the future. The classroom sizes and availability, it just can't work with what we have set up now, and it doesn't fit into our long-term plans. From where I'm sitting, it only makes sense to give control of this city-owned building back to the city so that it can find another future. So that's my yes vote for it speech.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions before we vote? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? I'll abstain. The motion carries. Congratulations, Superintendent. Another item checked off your list.
Oh, that was a big one.
I was looking around for my phone, which is what I use as my crib sheet for the motions related to the policy items. So, Susan Farber, by any chance, do you have a motion handy for second read and vote on these sections?
What did you do with your phone?
I had it earlier.
And I think it can suffice for the second reading. To approve the second reading of amendments to section, whatever, as presented.
All right, great. Let's see. Is there anyone who would like to take each of these sections separately, or can we just do H through H, K, and L as one motion? All right. So, as put forward by Susan Farber, that is the motion for sections H, K, and L. Would someone like to make that motion?
So move.
All right. A motion by Member Goodwin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Sexton. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? I'll abstain. Any other abstentions? Member Martini? Motion carries. Congratulations, Superintendent. We did it.
Thank you. That's a good one.
That was from when I first came on the committee almost 5 years ago. We were they were in the middle of that work. Phew. Well, and the work of reviewing our policies continues, and we immediately have an amendment to one we recently approved. Superintendent, will you set this up for us?
Well, it's a minor adjustment, but the issue of international travel is one that would create a little bit of a challenge with the wording of the policy as was voted this evening. So I have a proposal for you. The only section modified is the section in yellow. So what happens with our international trips is that the teachers who facilitate them use a travel company, and so they present to the superintendent what their intended plans are. It comes to the school committee for review and approval, and basically at that point it gets advertised to the students, and the travel company begins to collect money right then. It can be a year or more out. And unless a family voluntarily purchases trip insurance, if at a later date, which the policy says has to come back to the school committee with details no more than 30 days out, if for some reason the school committee would vote no at that point, all the families would lose all their money. There are no refunds with the travel companies. So that process really isn't functional. So if the committee would like to continue to support international trips, really the committee would have to give the final approval at the initial point, or certainly you could have the teacher come back a second month, but they would not be able to advertise or start taking money until the committee votes to approve. Given that it's far out, we did add in that we felt that for a student to participate in the trip, they did at the time of the trip need to be a Greenfield Public Schools student, not necessarily a resident. As we know, we have non-resident students, but that if they were to move out of the Greenfield Public Schools, that they would no longer be eligible for the trip. So that is the proposed modification.
Okay. I'd like to hear a motion to approve on first reading amendment to JJH, student late night or overnight travel policy.
So moved.
Motion from Member Martini. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Member Childs. Any discussion or questions? Please.
Just so that I have it clear in my head, let's say there's a trip, we've approved it, it's happening, they're collecting money, a student puts money in, or their family does, and then they move, and we're still saying they're out of it, they're SOL?
That's the suggestion. I think the challenge is that the liability is on the Greenfield schools, around transporting and supervising the student who's really not under our purview at that point. But that, again, that's up to the committee. That was a language that Karen and I thought would be important, because it could be 2 years, 1 or 2 years. I know that one of our teachers at the high school is very anxious to come to the committee to start talking about a trip for 26. So,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? I'll abstain. Abstentions from Member Sexton, Member Deneve, and I will abstain. The motion carries. Great. And I'll just say, for the policy committee, I think, we have the second reading, which will be next month. We had been meeting very regularly because of the policy review process, but I don't think there's a need for us to meet if if the committee isn't directing us to, take a look at this or just that, So unless the committee really is directing the policy committee to meet and discuss a policy at greater length and bring something different back for the second reading, we will not plan to meet to discuss it between this meeting and the next, or unless we hear significant public, interest in us having a discussion on it. Great. Next, we're on to the school committee year-long agenda. So Member Deneve has been advocating for the committee to have a year-long agenda, and I was becoming a bottleneck. And I thought, rather than being a bottleneck off on my own, I just bring it to us as a committee to work on and discuss. So maybe, Member Deneve, if we could start with just kind of a description of what the desired outcome here is and what it would look like.
So based on my how to school committee classes that I have gone to, The year-long agenda is actually something that you and Karen will formulate together, and something that you would bring to us to vote on because, and Kate, please correct me if I'm wrong, because you were also in said class. It's the goals, the school committee goals that we develop together as a group, because the idea is that we create our goals as a school committee, and we vote on them, and we bring them to you, and you and Karen develop the year-long agenda and try to connect our goals to the points in the agenda where they would be heard or worked upon, and also bring into that agenda the budget subcommittee calendar and also the strategic plan, so that when we look at the year that's coming up, and also when the public looks at the year, we can chart the flow of the work so we understand when things are coming up so we can prepare, when to expect things, so that we understand when things come up that aren't scheduled because things happen and have to be slotted in, and so that we can sort of all be on this journey together and know what is upcoming so that we are all on the same page, if that makes sense. And that way we're able to see, they said these words specifically, each member's desires and goals should be seen within the year-long agenda. So that is what we were taught needs to be. Am I right, Vice Chair Martini?
Well, you might be taxing my memory a little bit too much. It's been a while since I was at my last MASC workshop, but my understanding is that the committee should provide an annual agenda so that members of the public understand approximately when during the year certain things will be covered by the school committee so that they can anticipate when they might like to show up or pay extra attention.
And that also is supposed to help you as the chair to facilitate the different members' needs. So in case anyone might, for example, in the class, they said maybe someone's bugging the chair, they really want to have something handled, the chair can look at the year-long agenda and say, oh, your issue takes place in October when we discuss X, Y, and Z. So that's part of keeping everybody on the same playing field and working together as one.
Okay, so it sounds like, I mean, I guess the way, from what you're describing it, it sort of sounds like the committee agrees on goals and then there's kind of an implementation plan with a timeline on it. I guess I can say a little bit of work is being done on a year-long work plan, if that's the case, in that I know that the Budget Committee has been working on kind of a calendar for when different discussions and things will take place. That seemed to be one of the goals of the committee, was to have a more meaningful engagement of the committee in the budget development process. So that's happening. And I know that the now Assistant Superintendent has begun work on drafting a timeline for the superintendent evaluation process. So that certainly gets kind of, I guess, siloed, but certainly we could put some of these things together into one document. I don't think that we have formally voted on goals of the committee yet, unless I'm wrong. I think
No, we
we
haven't.
brainstormed kind of a list of possible goals for the committee.
Yeah, but we haven't done anything as a group with that.
Right.
But I think it's just us creating a main quest line. But Liz LaFond was saying that it's very hard to do it the first time.
Yeah.
And that subsequent years, we'll look back on it and be able to adjust what we already have and slot things in quicker and easier. But that this first one is really hard because we haven't done this before. We don't have a foundation. For example, when we were working on the handbook, we got really involved in Lincoln, Massachusetts school committee, and they have their year-long agenda really clearly mapped out, and every year they just build on it, and you can click on it, and it's just all there. So we took a lot of inspiration from that.
Member Sexton?
So I want to recognize and respect that you put this on on the agenda, and you started the preamble by saying that you felt like you were being a bottleneck to this issue, and clearly, I don't think that you're necessarily the only bottleneck, because there are steps that we haven't even taken to get to the point where Member Deneve was saying is your responsibility. But I also want to name that just because MASC says, oh, that's the chair's job, doesn't mean that that's how we have to do. And if you don't feel like you would like to take on all of that work yourself, which is understandable and reasonable, then we can do it as a group. I might recommend that we don't have it as an item tucked in, and that we might actually schedule a special working session for just that and spend a couple of real hours together digging into this. Because the other goal that I might say is that it's not just about understanding, but it's actually about building synergy between the district's goals and our goals as a committee, which are distinct but related, and the budgeting calendar, which is distinct but related to all of those as well. And it's really about finding a way to make all of our goals work together so that we're spinning up rather than spinning down or out. So I just wanted to name that you don't actually have to do it alone if you don't want to. But maybe it requires more attention than this bullet item here as buried among a longer list of items. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that a dedicated working session. Yeah, I think it would take some time to plan that and make it a good use of everyone's time, and might be useful to bring in some expertise with people who have worked with school committees before on designing this kind of document. I mean, it sounds like, though, we could do some kind of we could start with something relatively basic, in that we have these kind of emerging calendars for budget committee, for superintendent evaluation. We certainly have recurring items on the calendar that happen around the same time every year. So that could be a start of a kind of a skeleton for a year-long work plan. Great. So I guess the other piece for me is if it is about, I guess in my mind, there's two different types of year-long work plans. There's kind of the year-long work plan that is going to be basically the same every year after a certain point, like the things that happen with the budget, the things that happen with the superintendent evaluation. And then there would be the unique things the special projects that we take on. For example, maybe we would incorporate the school committee handbook and have certain milestones built into the calendar for certain deliverables that the handbook committee would work on and stuff. So anyway, great. All right. Well, is there any other thoughts or questions people have about the year-long agenda development process? Yeah, Member Sexton.
Recognizing that one of the first steps that I'm seeing is for us to refresh our memories of the goals that we said we were interested in, and then maybe formalizing those in some kind of way. I don't know if there's space for that next month or the month after, but.
Yeah, I think so. We could certainly bring back the notes from that goal generation process and try to make some decisions as a group together about which goals those are. Member Martini?
I think there's a little bit of a chicken and the egg problem when it comes to relating committee goals to an annual calendar, since we have yet to establish committee goals. And I think it would make sense, perhaps as a starting off point for this annual calendar, for the committee to place a time frame on when the committee will set annual goals. It makes sense to me to do that prior to the beginning of the school year. So approximately August, I think, would be a good time for the committee to discuss committee goals and adopt them. And I also think it would make sense to relate that to school committee self-evaluation, which is another item I think should take place at approximately the same time every year on an annual calendar. And our goals should come out of our self-evaluation. So perhaps one and then the other, and that will help to then illuminate more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, in my facilitation days of training nonprofits and governmental entities in facilitation skills, one of the frameworks we used was this concept of open, narrow, close, which is kind of like you have your kind of brainstorming session like I think we've already had, but maybe we want to revisit that and add any new ideas people have had, and then kind of a narrowing thing, and then where we kind of narrow our options, we can review and explore, and then a meeting where we decide together on what those goals are. And so maybe I guess if we want to incorporate the school committee self-evaluation into that process, it'd probably be useful to use our current tool that we've had in the past. It's a survey, I think it was administered or at least designed by the Collaborative for Educational Services. One of our policies, just for folks who don't know, is that the school committee is supposed to not just evaluate the superintendent, but also evaluate ourselves. And so there was a tool, I think, designed for us by Collaborative for Educational Services that we could all perhaps participate in between now and the next meeting. Hopefully, and either have our results compiled by the July meeting or the August meeting, and use that to inform our strategic planning process, I guess, is basically what a year-long strategic planning process that I'm hearing about. So, yeah, any other thoughts about that as a possible timeline? Do the school committee's self-estimation or self-evaluation, do some work on narrowing and determining our goals, and then hope to set our year-long agenda by the August meeting. I think it's ambitious, but we might be able to pull it off in 2 months. Okay.
I'll say I wholeheartedly support diving into that self-evaluation. Again, it's not nearly as bad of a tool as the superintendent evaluation. I did not mind doing it before. And the only disappointment I really had about it was that the committee then did not do anything with it afterwards. So I would love to do that again, and really look forward to your leadership in turning that into something.
Yes, I think that would be really wonderful if we're going to take the time. I think I honestly owe it to you as the chair to do something with it if I ask you to take the time to fill it out. So I will promise to do that. Great. Anything else on the year-long agenda? Okay, thank you. This was a very helpful conversation for me. All right, let's see. School committee reports, report of the chair. I have subcommittee functions and duties. It was part of the packet. So one of the items that that our policy says is that each committee and ad hoc committee will be given kind of a description of what your function and duties are. And so it just says that they will be presented to you. I would prefer not just to present it to you, but actually hear back from you on whether you think I've got a draft for you, if they're with the tremendous help of the superintendent and assistant superintendent. I'd say this is a very useful process, and it was for me. I think that one of our challenges as a school committee is both sometimes I think it's where we need to learn more about what our role is and what the limits of our role are and where which lane we're supposed to stay in. And sometimes we actually have disagreements with the administration about what that role is. So sometimes it's an educational function. Sometimes I think it's a ideological or philosophical disagreement. But the conversation with the assistant superintendent and the superintendent were very useful and clarifying to me. And so just wanted to be transparent that I did share drafts of this and went back and forth with them quite a bit before presenting it to you. I stand by what I put forward to you as something that I believe in, but it certainly does incorporate feedback from the two of you. And I really appreciate your work on that. What I put forward was very drafty and need a lot of work, and you were very patient with me, so thank you. So I guess I guess there's a couple ways we can go here. We can have a discussion now if people have initial impressions of what I've put forward to you. Two other things. One thing is you could bring this back to your subcommittee review and come back to the full committee with any changes that you recommend. The other piece is that Member Sexton suggested that each subcommittee look at including some language or adding some language to these descriptions about equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think. I don't know if I'm capturing your thought correctly.
Specifically, how the work of the committee is furthering our district's goals around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how that is a part of the mission of the subcommittee.
So those statements are not included in what's in front of you. I think that would be one thing I think is important with issues of DEI is that people are engaged in the process, so maybe that would be a useful conversation to have at the subcommittee level. To discuss how your work on that committee affects DEI issues. So with that, I'd open it for any feedback or questions or comments people have about either the process of drafting this or feedback on the content. Member Deneve.
I really like the idea of bringing these to our subcommittees and working on them and them coming back. That's all I really wanted to say. I think that would be the best way forward.
Great, thanks.
Thanks for taking this on.
Sure. Any further? Member Martini?
I'm just curious if you at some point will go ahead and provide similar guidelines or definitions to the representative positions as well as the subcommittees?
I mean, it's not part of our policy that the chair is to do that, but I certainly think it might be a useful tool for people. Maybe we could start with people who are assigned as those members who may have the most information about what's involved in those jobs to share something with me to present back to the committee at some point. But I do think it's a useful part of our functioning to have these delineated. Yeah. And I guess the other thing is a recommendation to the handbook committee. I think that again, one of the roles I think that the handbook committee can really play is like making it clear items that are in our policies, how are they implemented and handed out? I mean, I think the policy probably does need some change to the language because it says you will be presented with this, but it doesn't say who presents it. And it seems like the chair is the most obvious person, but there could be other ways to go about developing these as well. So, so I'm just wondering if maybe the handbook committee could take a look at that at some point.
So a section on, let me see if I've got this wording right. So we're creating our content, we're building the content, and one of the contents would be who creates these assignments and how they're disseminated?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, what's the,
that makes sense.
you know, I mean, I think there could be language in there about, encouraging the chair to accept feedback from the committees on their descriptions and so on. I mean, I think it does seem like the intent of the policy is to empower the chair to be the decision maker. And I think I like that, but I'm the one who currently gets that power, so you might not like it. You might want to change that. I don't know, but I think it's useful to have a way of determining that, of the committee making a final decision or the chair making the final decision. So, anything else on the where are we? The subcommittee functions and duties. Member Sexton.
When would you like the subcommittees to have done their work of looking at this, discussing it, and bringing it back? At which meeting would you like us to do report backs about our discussions?
Maybe the next meeting. If you can meet between now and the next meeting, regular meeting, that would be great. I think it would be good for committees to kind of use these draft descriptions as your current operating description, just because it might be useful to have something for the time being. So, Member Martini?
Can I ask for a little bit more time than that, only because I would like to have the next Budget and Finance Subcommittee meeting scheduled after I attend an MASC training about FY26 budget strategies. And I think that takes after the next school committee meeting.
July 12th and 13th.
Yeah, isn't that like 2 days after the next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe 2 meetings from now?
Yeah, well, why don't people get them to me as soon as you can? And if I'm not going to be upset if I have to wait till August. So, but if people can get them before the next meeting, that would be great. Anything else on subcommittee functions and duties? All right, let's move into our reports, budget and finance.
I think I just said it.
Right.
I would anticipate that the Budget and Finance Committee will have a meeting later in July. I would like to be able to attend a training that is being offered at the MASC Summer Institute about FY26 budget strategies, like I just said, and share that information with the subcommittee, just to bring it back to everyone at that point and combine that with the next update on the budget. So I have nothing to report since our last meeting.
Great, and let's talk more about the MASC Summit when we get to the MASC Division Representative item. We can see if there's other interest in attending that conference. Policy and program, I think that you've seen our work. We did it. So hopefully, I don't know what the timeline is from Liz about getting up. We've completed the overhaul of all of our policies. They can go up on a special website designed by MASC, which will be searchable and much more user-friendly than our current situation. So,
I will email her tomorrow.
yes. And she's not here, but many thanks to Liz LaFond, who's been a tremendous and flexible ally to us, because they had every right to say most committees get this done within a year. I think that was our original contract, and they just kindly waited for us and worked with us. And COVID was an excuse, but it wasn't our entire excuse. So great. Executive subcommittee didn't meet. Redistricting and reorganizing.
We met last week, and the biggest item of substance was related to our vote to endorse the vote around Green River Schools, so that was the biggest item. We did also, perhaps anticipatory of your item as chair, did begin discussing what we thought our mission was, and specifically trying to call out the equity components of what we thought we were trying to do. think that was, we had a couple of other updates, but nothing of real substance. Those were the core.
Great, thanks. And people will see in my description of the functions and duties for that subcommittee, I sort of think it looks like mission has been accomplished based on the description that I have there. I think it might be time for that ad hoc committee to disband and for members to, maybe for the school committee to explore other projects. From my view, our job was basically to make the decisions and set the policies, and those seem to be in place, and the administration is now in the implementation phase. They're certainly bringing things to the full committee as needed, but I'm not sure the ad hoc committee is as needed as it once was. Unless I hear back from the ad hoc committee, strong opposition to that, I anticipate that at the next meeting I'll present the vote for the school committee to disband that ad hoc committee. School committee handbook.
I will be polling for a meeting sometime between now and July. And hopefully we will meet and have many more things to report upon at our July meeting.
Excellent. Collaborative for Educational Services representative.
There hasn't been a meeting.
Okay. Have you made contact with the collaborative just so they know that you exist and you're our rep now?
I think I got an email from them, but I'll double check.
All right. If not, and you need an introduction, let me know and I can help to make that happen. Great. Let's see, where are we? City planning and construction.
We already covered it when we talked Green River School earlier tonight.
Okay. Did you get to see the new fire department?
Yes, it's not quite as related to the school, but we have been doing tours of all the city-owned buildings to triage what is most dramatically in need of things and what the city's greatest needs are. It's a really cool subcommittee.
Very nice. Glad you like it. Legislative representative.
Well, I have some updates from Senator Comerford's office. And if you're not on her mailing list, you should get on it because she sends all of these things in wonderful bulletins. So some of you may already know this. She writes that they have successfully increased the minimum aid to $110 per student. That they approved an additional $2.5 million for rural school aid, bringing the total to $17.5 million in the Senate budget, and that they established a commission to begin cracking open the Chapter 70 school funding formula to make recommendations for updating the calculation of required local contribution.
Very nice. Thank you very much. District Wellness Committee representative.
We met on the 20th of May. And the agenda was sharing and celebrating successes in programs, which Christine did in great style in her show. But really, amazing work that they've done. They have an amazing action plan, working on vaping, working on nutrition education, and everybody pulling together across. Mike Kaczewski was there. It was an impressive group of people who deserve all the recognition that they have received.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I have Division 5 too. I don't know.
Oh, Division 5, sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
Y'all probably got this in the mail. So the Hyannis trip has been planned, and it is November 6th through 9th, and it's at the same place, the Emerald Resort, Cape Cod Irish Village in Hyannis. So the early bird is coming up July 15th, so if you're thinking about going, you should do it because it's a significant savings to the district if we do it early. And we can organize and plan and strategize. And this is also a superintendent's event. Karen, I don't know if you will be joining us this year, but if you want to meet all your new cohorts, they will all be there. And there's also the Summer Institute that Kate was mentioning, Friday, July 12th and 13th, and that is in Marlborough, and that is 4 sessions on collective bargaining, what you need to know to prepare, goal setting, strategic budgeting for FY26, rules of engagement and collective bargaining, and update on Title IX. So if anyone wants to go to that, that is also upon us.
Great. I don't remember the process. Do we need to vote to send members to these, or can we just make it a standing thing that if people want to go, they can go?
I think the district's perspective is that committee members can go, that we would fund it. I would just ask, I'm asking proactively, if you're going to go, please tell us so that we can encumber funds. And after you go, you would need to send proof of attendance and proof of payment. So just if we can, it's super helpful if we can encumber the funds on the front end. So letting myself or Karen, depending what date you do it, know what the costs are for the hotel and everything.
Do we have, if I remember right in our policy, we have $2,000 per member already encumbered for professional development? Is that not the case?
You may be right. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I can check.
I think it's per member. Okay, we'll have to look.
Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yes, Member Martini.
Professional development.
When would we anticipate the next round of contract negotiations happening? In a couple of months. So
Probably the unit A and C, I believe, are up in June of 25. So at some point in the fall.
Okay. I think previously the committee had designated an individual member. So I thought that the training being offered at the Summer Institute sounds particularly relevant to that member, and I just wanted to bring that up and see if we would have someone who would attend that. I am strongly intending on attending the Friday session because of the budget content. Not sure I can attend the Saturday session, and it wouldn't be so relevant for me anyway, not being the person designated to do that. So.
Yeah, and I have not designated anyone for that role yet. Certainly, if there's anybody who's interested.
Did my term expire after that last contract was settled?
You were assigned to be the IT, I think it was specific
I thought that
to
I was
the-
just the collective bargaining rep generally.
It's in the packet. Let's see, the roles and the way that it's described. Do you have that? Let's see. Representatives.
I don't see it listed in
It's
your.
not listed. We'll have to go back and see what the committee voted on. If you certainly,
It
if
was
you're-
me because I was there for
No, I know it was you. I just don't know whether I listed it as IT. I think I removed it because the IT contract ended. So I think it was listed as IT rep. But if you want to be, the school committee's rep to all of the different unions, it just was that there are different ways to organize it. We did have Member Wall formerly was assigned to kind of be the rep to every single union. Prior to that, though, we would split up the work a little bit more because sometimes you get into a period where you're negotiating 2 contracts at once, and it's a lot of meetings. So,
Okay.
but are you interested in continuing Unit A?
I never thought that I had an option.
Well, I shouldn't have. Clearly, I made a mistake in the way that I organized this. But do you have interest, I guess, now that you realize you have an out, if you want one?
I have the interest, but I also don't want to monopolize that if there are others who also have an interest in doing that. And I also don't need to be the only person doing 2 contracts. I would love to have backup, yes. I think it's important for us to have alternates.
So let me know if you're interested in that role, and I will make a determination and put it forward to the committee for the vote. Okay. Great. Any other questions or comments about any of the committee reports or role reports? With that, I would hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion from Member Childs.
Second.
Oh, a second from Member Goodwin. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Superintendent, on your last school committee meeting as a superintendent.